Monica, 30 years old. Let's rewind to my childhood. I don't remember much from when I was born. I don't know who my biological parents were, and I never wanted to find out. I found myself in an orphanage surrounded by other kids with dreams and stories of their own. I held on to a hope that one day I would be chosen and my life would change forever. My lucky day came when I turned 10. A wonderful couple, Lisa and Robert, scooped me up and brought me into their family. I can still remember the butterflies in my stomach as I moved into their house. It was a place of new beginnings with every room full of possibilities. A couple of years later, our family grew yet again. Lisa and Robert decided to adopt a young boy named Austin, who was just a bit older than me. Life was all rainbows. It felt like being part of any regular family, doing regular things. I never felt like an outsider, and even though people around me would ask me if I was curious to know who my parents were, I simply said no, because I truly had no interest in getting to know the people who did not want me in their lives. In my head and heart, my real family was Lisa, Robert, and Austin. I was off to college, all pumped up to chase my dreams with the solid support of my parents, but life's a twisty road. It was a call from Austin. He hit me with some bad news. Our parents, Lisa and Robert, had been in a crazy accident. The world I knew, that bubble of their love, just popped. Their loss hit me harder than I could ever imagine. I realized Austin was the only family I was left with up until I met my husband, Brian. Brian and I had our own little love story centered around our shared passion for the piano. We met through our college's music club, and then when I was 24, I made a decision that was quick, almost impulsive. Brian and I had grown so close that it felt like the natural next step. We decided to get married. We were young and in love. After Brian and I got married, he landed a decent job and we moved into his mom, Bernice's house. It was all Brian's idea. He said that we would have a ton of rent money, which we could soon invest in our own place later on. Bernice had never really warmed up to me, but we managed to coexist under the same roof. She would often drop hints that Brian had settled down too early and should have explored more of life. But everything took a dramatic turn when I found out I was pregnant. Brian seemed happy when I told him the news, but I could not say the same about Bernice. Bernice, there's something we want to share with you. We're going to have a baby. A baby? You are having a baby? Yes, Mom. We're finally going to be a grandma. We are really excited about it. Excited? This is unbelievable. You don't even have a place of your own, and now you're bringing a child into this world? We are hardly keeping up with the bills in this house, for God's sakes. Mom, don't worry. We are finally moving out. We won't take up your space anymore. You know, Brian, before Monica came into your life, you were a bright student with so much potential. You had dreams, goals, and a future ahead of you. But now, you're going to be a dad and your life's been turned upside down. Mom, it's not that black and white. I still have dreams and I'm not giving up on them. My priorities have changed a bit. Priorities? What priorities, Brian? It seems like you have completely forgotten about me. I raised you when your dad left us. You brought this woman into my house, a woman whose own parents did not want her. And what happened to the ones who finally decided to take her in? Bad luck followed them. She ruins everything she touches. You just don't get it, Brian. She was probably looking for someone to rely on, and you walked right into it. Hundreds and thousands of women out there, and you choose the one no one wants. Bernice, why do you say so much about me? I have always been nothing but nice to you. I have wanted you to accept me as part of this family, but it seems like you are determined to see the worst in me. Mom, I think Monica is right. It's time for us to find our own place as soon as possible. Brian, well, he had always been the listener in his relationship with his mom, often staying silent and just taking in what she had to say. Brian and I set out to find a small apartment of our own. I should also mention that Lisa and Robert, my parents, had a will in place, and in it, they left me a significant sum of money. Half of that money was used for the purchase of our apartment, but here's the thing, it was under Brian's name. As time went on, things started to change. Brian received a well-deserved promotion at work, and with it came a significant bump in his income. He had always traveled a lot for work. It was clear that Brian had reached whatever Bernice referred to as his potential, and it seemed to give him a certain level of smug satisfaction. He was proud of his achievements, and I was genuinely happy for him. But there was something off about his behavior. It felt like he had been pumped up by his mom, and it was affecting our relationship. During those 9 months of pregnancy, Brian was not really around much due to his demanding work schedule. It left me with a lot of alone time, but it was not all bad. Sometimes Austin and his girlfriend Lorna would come to visit. Lorna and I hit it off, and we would have these fantastic girls' nights. We would watch cheesy movies, indulge in my pregnancy cravings, and just gossip. Time passed, and it was only about 2 weeks before my due date when Brian finally came home. "It's good to have you back, especially with the baby almost here." "Yeah, I'm glad to be here too, babe. I need to talk to you about something." "What is it?" "Monica, I've been talking to Mom these last few months, and it seems like she's started to come to accept you and the baby. Do you think we should call her over for the birth?" "Really? That's a change. Well, if you think she's genuinely coming around and wants to be part of our lives, then yeah, Brian. It might be a good idea to have her there with us." About 2 weeks after our conversation, my water broke. And that's when the roller coaster ride of childbirth began. Let me tell you, it wasn't the smoothest journey. The labor pain hit hard, and I felt like I was in a pressure cooker about to blow. But then, things took a scary turn. It wasn't just a regular labor drama. Nope, we had some fetal stress and maternal hemorrhage happening at the same time. Talk about double trouble. The doctors went into overdrive to save both of us. The medical team decided to do an emergency C-section, and I was out like a light. When I finally came to my senses, I had this beautiful baby girl in my arms, and I named her Roxy. Brian and Bernice were nowhere to be found. I was shifted into a private room, and the doctors told me I needed to stay there for some time till I fully recovered. The trauma of that birth experience left me forever changed. I was so close to the edge, so close to losing it all, that it shook me to my core. The whole ordeal was pretty darn scary. Just when I was processing everything in my room, Brian and Bernice came in. "Brian, where have you been? Did you take a look at our little girl?" I finally decided on Roxy as her name. She looks like a little Roxy, and oh, she's got your nose. "Monica, I've got some really bad news. The medical bills for childbirth are astronomical, and I don't think we can handle it. They want us to pay a huge sum, and God knows how many days you're going to spend in this room. That means nothing but more bills, and I just can't do it." "Brian, what are we going to do? I mean, we can't just leave a massive bill unpaid. I have some of the money left from what my parents left me." "That's not what I'm trying to say. This is a nightmare for me. My mom was right all along. I should have listened. I'm sorry, but we can't do anything. You should call Austin or someone to figure this out. We're leaving." "What do you mean?" "Oh, what he means is he is finally seeing the light. I told him you would be nothing but trouble. Look, Monica, I've got a good position now, and if I pay for this, it's going to derail all my plans and dreams. I will not be able to get that fancy car I've been eyeing, and I won't be able to keep up with the lifestyle I want for myself. I can't sacrifice it. I'm leaving you the apartment. You can stay there." "Brian, We can find a way. We can work this out together. This is the daughter we are talking about. Well, your daughter. I don't want to get involved. I can't deal with this burden right now. I need to figure things out, and I don't want you or the baby to be part of that process. I'll let you know if I change my mind. Brian, you'll let me know if you change your mind, won't you? This is not some dinner I've asked you to come for. I can't believe you're leaving us like this. Do you even realize what I've been through? The emotional distress, the trauma of childbirth, and now you're just walking away, leaving me with this enormous bill? You need to understand, Monica, you are not our responsibility. Brian can do whatever he wants. Call your so-called brother or whoever, we don't care. Son, it's time for us to leave. Sure, Mom. Bye, Monica. So there I was, broken, abandoned, and drowning in bills. I cried my heart out for what felt like an eternity, feeling like my world had crumbled. But then I called Austin, my big brother. He was furious about the situation, but he was there for me, no questions asked, and he wasn't alone. Lorna was by his side as well, and they both stepped in to be my support system. I spent the next 10 days in the hospital recovering, while Austin and Lorna juggled everything else. They got me food and baby supplies, and most importantly, they got me through the darkest time in my life. When the day came for my discharge, I needed to deal with the huge hospital bill. It was a monster, and I did not know how I was going to tackle it. But there was Austin once again being the hero. He paid a whopping 75% of that bill, and I chipped in as much as I could. He took me to the house he and Lorna were living in, which, by the way, used to be our parents' place. It was part of the will, you see. Lisa and Robert left me the money, but the house belonged to Austin now. You know, Monica, we could teach your husband and your mom-in-law a lesson they won't forget. Maybe even get your husband behind bars for deserting you like this. Austin, I appreciate your support, but I still hope that Brian will come to his senses someday. He is the father of Roxy after all, and despite everything, I don't want to give up on that possibility. I never really liked him, you know? Even from the start, he didn't seem right for you. It was all just so fast and sudden. Give her a break, babe. She just got back from the hospital. I know you've always had my back, Austin. It's just, I hope that someday Roxy can have a relationship with her father, and who knows, maybe people can change. Monica, whatever you decide, we are in this together. Monica, you know you're welcome to stay with us for as long as you want. This is your home, too. Absolutely, Monica. I work from home as a realtor, so I have my fair share of free time. We can all take care of Roxy together. You guys, I don't even know how to thank you. I was lost, and you both just saved me. I think I would like to say, this is where I need to be right now. So, there you have it. That chat with Austin and Lorna was like 4 years ago. Time flew by and a lot has happened since then. A year later, Brian asked me for a divorce. He had met someone new and it seemed like he had not changed a bit. It hurt, especially for Roxy. He did not seem to care much about his own daughter, which was heartbreaking. But life had other plans for me. I decided to focus on different things in life. I didn't want to start dating again or get caught up in all that drama. I had my sights set on my career. I had a business degree and it was time to put it to use. I sold the apartment I got in alimony and used the funds to kickstart my own business. Fast forward to now, and I'm doing pretty well. Well, let me be honest, I have been blessed beyond words. My little business turned out to be a big hit. With my new financial security, I was able to buy a beautiful home in the same neighborhood as Austin and Lorna. Talking about those two lovebirds, they also got hitched in the span of these last 4 years. You must be wondering what happened to Brian and Bernice, right? I was too. I mean, Did Brian just waltz off into the sunset with the love of his life and live happily ever after? I had all these questions swirling around in my head, and honestly, I never got proper closure from the past. But about 2 months ago, my phone rang, and it was a call that changed everything. Hello, Monica, it's Bernice. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Bernice? This is quite a surprise. What can I do for you? Well, I saw this article in the local magazine about your business and how well you're doing. I must admit, I was quite impressed. It just reminded me of you, and I thought I should call. Thank you, Bernice. I did not expect to hear from you after all these years. How is Roxy, by the way? Roxy's just fine. Thanks for asking. She's growing up fast. Monica, I was thinking maybe we should catch up. There are things I would like to talk to you about. Things from the past. All good intentions, dear. Don't worry. I'll think about it. I'll drop you a text on this number. All right, darling. Just try to give this old woman a chance to apologize. I couldn't help but feel confused. After all these years, why would Bernice suddenly want to reconnect to apologize? I wanted to get answers. It was a mystery that tugged at the edges of my mind. I decided to text her, and we agreed to meet at a cafe. Bernice, it's been a while. How have you been? Monica, I've been well. It's been quite a journey. I don't know if you've heard about Brian. He's living with his new wife now, and it seems like he's completely cut ties with me. I haven't heard from him in a while. I'm sorry to hear that, Bernice. It must be tough. Monica, I need to say this. I know I was not the best mother-in-law to you, and I said and did some hurtful things. And what happened at the hospital, I want to apologize for all of it. I'm on your team now. Bernice, I appreciate your honesty. I accept your apology. Thank you, Monica. That means more to me than you can imagine. But there is something else I need to talk to you about. What is it? You see, the old house, it's in really bad shape now. I wanted to buy a new one, but I'm in a tough spot financially. I was wondering if you could help me, just a little, to make it happen. You must be kidding me. You just wanted to talk to me into getting you a new house now that you know I'm doing well financially. It's not like that. I really don't have anyone to rely on. Here is the money for the food we ordered, but I won't be having it. I think I'll leave now. So there I was, heading home after that surreal meeting with Bernice. Her plea for help had left me chuckling and scheming, and I could not deny the thrill of a well-constructed plan. You see, I couldn't help but feel that Bernice had underestimated me, thinking she could manipulate me just like she did back in the day. But oh, how things had changed. I was a different person now, and I was ready to play the game. I couldn't help but laugh at the audacity of my own plan that I came up with. Some might call it petty, but I prefer to think of it as justice. The scheme was simple yet satisfying. I decided to have Bernice sell her old house with Lorna's assistance at a price that was a fraction of what it was worth. I would assure Bernice that I would help her buy a new house only to ghost her at the last moment. It might seem harsh, but after everything Bernice has put me through, it felt like a taste of her own medicine. So I texted Bernice again. I decided to take the high road, or at least pretend to, and told her I was sorry for my initial reaction. I assured her that I would help her with some funds to get the new house she wanted. I also mentioned that my sister-in-law Lorna was a realtor and a market expert who could assist her in setting the right price for her house. I told Lorna about the plan, and she was all in. So off we went to Bernice's place. Wow, being here brings back a lot of memories. Yeah, but I need new memories in a new place. Look at how worn out this house is. Well, Bernice, this is not official advice, but I'm sharing it because you're a friend of my husband's sister. To be honest, this house would not cost a penny more than $70,000. What? You must be kidding me. You see, the neighborhood is quite old and the house hasn't been well maintained. It would need a complete renovation and a total makeover. You would have to replace doors and windows and do a lot more. Do you have the funds for all that? I don't. Well, you can seek other opinions, but they'll probably tell you the same. It's quite the project. I had wanted to sell this place independently. It's your call now, Bernice. Well, I'm helping you out anyway, so we'll figure it out together. I couldn't believe how smoothly everything was going. She had put her house up for sale, and it seemed like a perfect match for someone looking for a good deal. In just 2 weeks, the house was sold. It was no surprise, given the affordable price she had set, and the buyers seemed more than happy to take it off her hands. During the same time, I had accompanied Bernice in her search for a new house. The audacity of it all was quite amusing. She was looking for houses in posh neighborhoods, bungalows, and more, all for herself. It was evident that her confidence was on the rise. We finally settled on a house, and I played my role to perfection. I assured Bernice that she didn't need to worry about a thing. I would take care of the new place, allowing her to focus on packing up her old house and making a smooth transition to her new home. When the time came, I even told her that I had paid for the house, ready to hand over all the paperwork on the day she moved in. She believed every word, and my little scheme was working perfectly. The day I had been waiting for finally arrived. It was the day Bernice had to shift to her new house, and I was sitting by my phone waiting for Bernice to call. And then she did. Monica, where are you? You said you would be here with the keys and paperwork and… Nope, Bernice. I didn't actually purchase that house. Seriously? I'm out here with a U-Haul truck full of my stuff and you're telling me you didn't buy the house? Well, Bernice, it hit me that I couldn't afford that place. It was a real hit to my bank account. What's the deal? I've got nowhere to crash and all my belongings are in the truck. You're not pulling my leg, are you? Remember when you left me high and dry with those hospital bills? I did try, just like you did back then, but sorry, I still can't be your savior. Unbelievable that you pulled this stunt. Well, call your son, check into a hotel, or figure something out. I'm not fazed. Oh, it looks like Roxy needs me now. Goodbye. I told Austin and Lorna about Bernice's situation, and we could not help but laugh our butts off. It was a moment of sweet revenge, but I guess we all need a bit of that from time to time. I don't really know what's become of Bernice or where she's living these days. Frankly, I don't care. I did to her what she did to me back then. I hope her son got the message as well, that they messed with the wrong woman. Maybe it was a tad petty, but hey, sometimes you have got to get your hands dirty to teach people a lesson. It's a wild world out there, and I'm just living my life, managing my business, and enjoying every moment with Roxy. She'll be starting kindergarten soon, and I can't wait to see the amazing person she's growing into. Hello, I'm Kiara and I'm 29 years old. I only recently got divorced, and the story behind it is actually pretty wild, and I want to share it here. To start off, let me introduce you to my now ex-husband, Mikey. Mikey and I met through a dating app. We shared a lot of similar interests and actually got along pretty well over text. For our first date, we went to a bar where we ended up having a great time. And from there on, we always found an excuse to just hang out with each other. Obviously, that meant that we went on a lot more dates, and before I knew it, we were properly dating. At the time, both of us were working, but mine paid a lot more than his. He still lived with his parents while I had my own house, so he would come over to my place a lot more often than I would go over to his. Of course, I had met his parents, Janice and Hugo, but only in passing. Even in those few times that I met them, they seemed lovely. About a year and a half into Mikey and I dating, I asked him to move in with me. That marked a turning point in our relationship because that only brought us closer. The next 2 years was super blissful, so it came as no surprise when Mikey proposed and I said yes. Our wedding was an elegant affair where we invited a lot of people from both our families. It was around then that I properly interacted with his family. I usually had a very demanding job, so I was almost always way too tired to do anything but come back home and sleep, which thankfully Mikey was very understanding about. At the wedding, Janice invited me over to their place for dinner the next week, and I figured it had been high time that I spent proper time with them, so I agreed. When we went over to their place, Janice and Hugo greeted me very warmly. The dinner table was already set with dinner and each plate was served. As we sat down to eat, Janice was very insistent about where I was supposed to sit. I thought it was odd, but I didn't think too much about it. Dinner was great and I genuinely had a good time with Mikey's parents. Throughout it, they kept thanking me for everything I did for Mikey, and of course I told them that I loved him and I would do anything for him. But when I returned home, my stomach began to feel really upset. It hurt really bad and I felt like I needed to throw up. Mikey held my hair back as I puked everything that I had ingested in the day. I felt so sick, but at that time, I didn't think that it had anything to do with Janice's food. I had gone out to eat sushi with some friends that day and just chalked it up to that. The next time Janice and Hugo invited us over was about 4 months later. Once again, I had been way too caught up with work to actually go and spend time with them, so this felt like a good way to catch up. But once again, Janice was insistent about where I was supposed to sit, and after I came back home, I was violently sick. That was when I started to think something was up. I didn't say anything because it felt rude to just accuse Janice of something without having any proof. Plus, I knew that Mikey loved and respected his mom to bits and would not believe me unless I had something as proof. Well, a few months later, the same thing happened again. And that time, I didn't keep my mouth shut. I confronted Mikey about it. Okay, we need to talk. Yeah? What's up? Don't you think it's odd that every time we go for dinner at your parents' place, I come back and I get violently ill? What exactly are you trying to imply? I don't know, Mikey. It's just odd, isn't it? Whenever we go out to eat, nothing happens, but only at their place. Are you trying to say that my mom is messing with the food? If the shoe fits. Do you have any proof of her doing that? No, but then how dare you accuse her of something as heinous as that? My mother is the sweetest woman on earth and she would never do something like that, ever. Mikey, I know you love your mom, but please, 3 times is a lot of times to get sick in the same fashion. Stop coming up with theories. They're a waste of time. And I don't want you saying anything against my mother anymore. With that, Mikey went and slept in the guest bedroom. I felt bad for saying something, but I knew that something was definitely wrong there. I became very paranoid about eating at his parents' place because of it. I didn't want to stir up any drama between them or us, so I just made up excuses to not go over. There was a point, though, where Mikey behaved differently after coming back from dinner with his parents, where he just seemed so shut off and distant, and no matter what I said to try and get him to talk, he just didn't. In hindsight, I guess that was when he found out what Janice had been doing to my food. As much as I avoided going over it, I couldn't never do it. So I would go over only on special occasions, and two special occasions happened to be pretty back to back: Janice and Hugo's anniversary and Hugo's birthday. I absolutely could not say no at that point, so I went. Of course, when I got back home, I was sick again. The first time I kept quiet about it, but the second time I approached Mikey about it again. We ended up getting into a huge fight about it because he felt like I was attacking Janice. I felt frustrated too because I was the one that was sick and I was only trying to tell him my concerns. I tried over and over again to talk to Mikey about it and maybe find some other reason for my sickness, but he wouldn't sit with me because every time I brought up my sickness, he took it as a personal attack on him and his family. I was tired of the arguing, but even more tired of getting so sick. And then Janice invited us over to dinner because Hugo got a raise, and so I went. And got sick. No surprise. This was the 6th time it happened and I was thoroughly done. I had tried time and time again to justify this sickness as a coincidence or something wrong with the food I consumed before. But 6 times is way too much to be a coincidence. I knew that next month was Janice's birthday, so she would invite us over for dinner, and I knew I had to seize my chance to snoop around. I would ask Mikey for help, but he seemed hell-bent on his parents not doing anything wrong. I needed to find the truth, or I knew that I would go insane. The next month came before I knew it. I was busy getting ready and I prepared myself to snoop around. I bought a disguised hidden camera just in case I wasn't able to snoop around. When we got to Mikey's parents' place, I greeted them warmly. I asked Janice if I could help with the food, but she was adamant about me not helping. "Why don't I help you with the food?" "Oh, no, absolutely not." "But it's your birthday. Why don't you go and relax while I take over?" No, you should go sit down, especially considering you're our guest." "Nonsense. I'm your daughter-in-law, right? We're family." "Kiara, it's really okay. I have a lot to get done and I don't need any help." "If you insist, but let me know if you need help with setting the dishes or even washing them after." "Oh yes, you can do that, but before that I need Mikey's help in the kitchen." "What could he do that I can't?" "Oh, nothing. I just need him to get something heavy from the top cabinet." "Oh, all right. I'll be sitting on the patio, but first I'll just go grab myself a bottle of water." Janice being super insistent on me not helping her only made me more suspicious. Why did she actually need Mikey's help? I was tall and pretty strong, which I can confidently say because I do work at the gym. I didn't want to think that Mikey was involved in any way, but maybe that was why he was so adamant about nothing being wrong with the food at his parents' place, because he knew what was happening. I didn't know how to feel about the possibility of Mikey being in on it, but I thought that it would be a problem for me to deal with later. First, I needed to find an inconspicuous place to set up the camera that would also capture the stove where Janice was cooking. Thankfully, Janice, Mike, and Mike's dad, Hugo, were far too busy chatting to realize how long I was gone. I also decided to snoop around and see if I could find anything myself. I didn't even have to actually look very far because on the counter right next to the stove was a bunch of spices, one of which was nutmeg. I am hypersensitive to nutmeg, which means that my body treats nutmeg like an infection, and I experience allergy symptoms. Thankfully, I don't have the worst case of it, and it only affects me when I ingest it. But my symptoms include stomach aches, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, all of which I've been having every time I went over to eat there. Seeing the bottle of nutmeg there open made my blood boil. I remember telling Mikey to tell his parents about my nutmeg allergy the first time I had dinner at their place. So, had Janice actually been adding it to my food? And was Mikey in the know and still letting her do it? I managed to calm myself down by telling myself that all my questions would be answered when I saw the footage on the camera. I took a bottle of water and went and sat on the patio. Pretty soon, Hugo joined me. I decided to test the waters and see if he was aware of what was happening. "So, how's it going?" "Oh, not so good. My health has kind of been acting funny." "Oh no, what do you mean?" "I've been having these really bad stomach aches and diarrhea." "Do you know what's causing it?" "Funny thing, it only happens after I eat at your place." "At ours? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there something you're allergic to?" "Yeah, nutmeg. But that's about it." "Well, I know that Janice hates nutmeg with a passion, so that could not be the case. Does it not happen when you eat elsewhere?" "No, I tested it out and nothing happened. I'll probably just visit the doctor if I get sick again after this." "Yeah, and let me know if you need my help." So Hugo was not aware of what was happening. He seemed genuinely concerned for me, and I didn't think that he would have been capable of acting too realistically. I mean, I've seen the man try to keep a surprise from Mikey before, and that was painful to watch. I waited until Janice called us in for dinner to make my excuse to go get the camera back. I walked into the kitchen and took the camera off the wall where I had positioned it. Then I went back into the dining room and just ate the food that was served to me. There was no way for me to check the footage until I went back home and inserted the SD card into my laptop. I decided to just bear with everything for just one more night. By the time I got back home, I was sick once again. You would think that after 7 times of experiencing this, I'd get used to it, but it really felt like the first time all over again. Mikey barely spared a glance my way, which only made me think even more that he was involved. I had to deal with my sickness while staying up until Mikey fell asleep to review the footage. By the time I started feeling better, Mikey had been fast asleep. I removed the SD card from the camera and inserted it into my laptop. I was nervous to play the footage because if it revealed what I had been suspicious of, I didn't know how I'd react or feel. When I played the footage, everything I had been scared of was confirmed. I saw Janice and Mikey happily talking away while she stirred the pot of food, and then she picked up the bottle of nutmeg and turned to Mikey, who laughed at her as she put it into the stew. I was appalled. Mikey, of all people, knew just how much I had been suffering, and he continued to let me get hurt. This was not something I was going to let go so easily. I didn't want either of them to realize that I had found out about their gimmick, so I pretended like everything was fine while I planned my next course of action. The first thing that I was going to do was file for divorce. I lied about going to work the next day and instead went straight to the lawyer's office and started the filing process. Then I went over to my mom's place to try and figure out what to do next. "Hi, honey. What brings you over right now? Is everything all right?" "Hi, Mom. Actually, everything's going to hell right now." "Uh-oh, what happened?" "Well, I'm getting a divorce." "Divorce? What do you mean? Why?" "Well, for the past few months, every time I went over to Janice and Hugo's for dinner, I would come back home really sick. I would tell Mikey that Janice must have done something, but he would always brush me off." "Oh no, do you think she was adding nutmeg?" "Yeah, but I don't think so. I know." I decided to do some snooping around. I also managed to get a hidden camera to secretly record everything that happened in that kitchen. I watched her put the nutmeg in as she laughed about it. "What a horrible woman! What is wrong with her? How are you feeling right now?" "I'm okay, but I wasn't last night." "Okay, that's good to hear, but what does that have to do with you getting a divorce?" Mikey stood by Janice as she put the nutmeg in and laughed with her. "What?" "Yeah, I don't think I can spend any more time with him. I can't be with someone who would intentionally harm me or even watch someone harm me." "Of course! And you can come and stay with me, okay? I'll be here to support you throughout. Thanks, Mom. But I was also thinking, do you think you could help me do something to get revenge? Oh, absolutely. But first, why don't we have some lunch? I promise there won't be any nutmeg. Being with my mom only helped me feel better. She had a way of easing all my worries and turning my bad mood around. We chatted over lunch about everything else, excluding what was currently going on in my marriage. When we were done, we sat down on the couch and began to talk about potential ways to get back. We eventually decided to mess with Janice's food. Mikey would get what he deserved when I served him the divorce. Thankfully, we had separate accounts for everything and the house was in my name. He would get absolutely nothing and he would go back to living with his parents. But messing with Janice's food while it was only a few of us present was not going to be very fun, so I had to find a reason to throw a party where people from both Mikey and my family could attend, and we found the perfect reason. It was my mom's birthday in 2 weeks and she was turning 50, which is a milestone birthday. It was the perfect reason to invite a bunch of people over, and watching Janice get humiliated would only make it better. When I got back home that evening, I talked to Mikey about hosting a party for my mom. So, it's my mom's birthday pretty soon. Oh, right. Is she doing something? Not really. I was thinking, do you think we could throw her a party at our place? I don't mind, but why our place? I was thinking we could do it like a surprise party for her, considering she's turning 50. Oh, yeah, absolutely, we can. Great! And about the guests, who do you think we should invite? Well, for sure your family, and see if her friends would like to join too. Sounds great. You know what? Invite your family too. Are you sure? My family isn't exactly close to yours. It's all right, we can bond them. We'll make this a big celebration. Sounds like a blast. Everything was going according to plan. I was busy preparing for the party for next week. I prepared all the food and cleaned the place up. Ever since I filed for a divorce, I began to notice things about Mikey that irked me even more. Like him not even helping me with the party one bit, and instead watching TV as I worked my butt off. It only made me feel better about my decision to leave him. As the preparations for the party were coming together, I also went and collected the divorce papers. Everything was set. Finally, on the day of the party, the guests all gathered in our backyard and surprised my mom. The evening went well, and when it came to dinner time, I handed out everyone's food already served on plates. That allowed me to mess with Janice's food separately. Now, I didn't know about any of her food allergies, but I did know that laxatives would induce the same symptoms that I had. So I mixed some strong laxatives into her food. I waited half an hour before noticing Janice starting to look uncomfortable. She excused herself to go to the washroom, but the washrooms were in use. Well, we had 2 bathrooms and my mother stayed in one of them for a couple of minutes while I locked the other one. Janice looked wildly uncomfortable by that point. She was pale and sweaty. I made sure to make a scene about it by loudly asking Janice if she was okay. It drew everyone's attention to her. She looked embarrassed as she said she was fine. Finally, my mom walked out and apologized because she was just touching up her makeup. That only made Janice angry, which was funny to watch because she looked like a cartoon character at that moment. The crowd went back to talking to each other until we heard loud sounds coming from the bathroom. Everyone went silent as the sounds came through. 5 minutes later, Janice walked out and the crowd erupted in laughter. Janice's face grew red from embarrassment. She walked up to me and poked my chest accusingly. "You did this." "What do you mean?" "I know you messed with my food." "Oh, Janice, I don't think so." "You don't think so? Then why am I the only one with an upset stomach?" "Wait a minute. Is this why you asked me to invite my family over too? So you could mess with my mom?" "I just know she did. I was completely fine before this." "Listen, Kiara, I know you have this stupid doubt, but this has gone too far. You're physically hurting my mother. What doubt are you talking about? You know, the silly one about my mom messing with your food whenever we go to my folks' place to eat. Oh, you mean like this? I sent the video to every guest sitting there. Everyone's phones pinged and they opened the video to watch Janice put something in the stew while she and Mikey laughed together. Mikey and Janice also received the video and their faces grew pale as they watched it. So it was a silly doubt, Mikey, because you know what's in that bottle, nutmeg. You know how bad my stomach aches because of it, and yet you stood by Janice while she poisoned the food. I swear it's not what you think. I literally don't see what other explanation you have. I can't stand you anymore, so here, handing him the divorce papers, get out of my house and my life. No, don't do that. Mikey is innocent. I just did that because I never liked you, and I knew that Mikey would never say a word against me. Well, that's even worse to know. If my husband can't even stand up for me against his mother, he doesn't deserve to be my husband. You know, you're lucky all I did was this. I could have pressed charges, but I'm only going to let it go if you guys quietly leave. With that, Janice and Mikey quietly left. Hugo stayed back to apologize for their behavior, and I assured him that he had done nothing wrong and had nothing to apologize for. I also asked him to stay back and continue to celebrate with us. But I guess it's safe to say that Janice and Mikey's reputation in the family has gone down by a lot. My divorce just got finalized and I am a free woman as of today. It will take some time to get over everything because as strong as I was with handling everything, now that it's all over, reality has been hitting me. I will never get to spend another day in Mikey's arms, and I will miss that for a while. But I know that I'm strong enough to get over it and move on. And of course, for those of you wondering, my mom was super happy with the outcome as well. Plus, I did take her to this really fancy restaurant to both celebrate her milestone birthday and thank her for her support and help. Hello, my name's Billy and I'm 28 years old. I only got married to my husband Carl 2 years ago, but his mother Helena and I have had a pretty rocky relationship to say the least. Thankfully, a chance encounter with a childhood friend saved my life from my mother-in-law's evil scheme. Let me introduce you to my relationship with my husband Carl. Carl and I met at a bar. It was a classic right time, right place situation. We hit it off pretty well that night and exchanged socials where we began to talk almost endlessly. I remember we used to even stay up until 5 a.m. just texting each other. Our relationship remained unlabeled for a while because neither of us was looking for any commitment, but eventually we found ourselves getting more and more attached to the other, so we decided to just make our relationship official. We dated for around 2 years before tying the knot. While my relationship with Carl was amazing and pretty smooth sailing, there was one hiccup. His mother, Helena. Helena was a force to be reckoned with. Whatever she wanted, she got, even if she had to get it by hook or crook. While that was an admirable quality, it was not when you put it in the context of her trying to get rid of me. Helena never approved of me from day one, and after Carl told her how we met, she disliked me even more. I don't know why, but she had it in her mind that I was an attention seeker who was after Carl's money, even though I made 2 times more than Carl did. Anyways, she was never subtle about her dislike for me. She was always rude and insulting, although she did make sure to always do it behind my back. She would purposely try to hurt me in little ways, like sticking her leg out to trip me, or she'd purposely spill either ice cold or really hot drinks on me accidentally. At first, I did think all of those things were accidents, but after a while, having a drink poured on you at every meeting tends to feel like more of a coincidence, so I approached Carl about it. I don't think your mother likes me. What do you mean? My mom loves you. Well, she's tripped me one too many times. Nonsense, even you have to admit that you're a little clumsy most times. Sure, but she's also poured a lot of drinks on me, all of which have been extremely cold or extremely hot, ever. Every single time I've met her. I don't know about that, but I can tell you that my mom is very overprotective of me. And maybe you're just amplifying things because you're upset and she hasn't fully approved of you in the way that you wanted. I don't know. It's very odd to say the least. But if she really doesn't like me, would you stand up for me? Of course. But I'm telling you, she just needs some time. Just bear with her shenanigans for a little longer and she'll come around. All right, if you say so. I couldn't bring myself to believe what Carl said immediately, but I believed that he knew his mother better than I did. So I gave it my best shot. I made sure to always do my best and behave my best whenever I was around her. I made sure to take over something whenever I went over, and I never spoke unless I was spoken to. Of course, I felt like a woman from the 18th century, but I was willing to do anything to get Helena to approve of me. One day, Helena called me out of the blue. That was very odd because every time she needed to communicate, she would call Carl and never me. I quite literally jumped when I saw her call. My heart raced as I picked up the phone. Hey, Helena, everything all right? Oh, yeah, of course. I was just calling you to see if you're free this weekend. Yeah, why? Great. I was thinking maybe we could go out together. You want us? As in you and me to go out together? Yes, I know. I've been giving you a hard time, but I want to make up for it. Oh, of course. Where will we be going? And at what time? I was thinking we could grab lunch at 1 in the afternoon at Savant. That's my favorite restaurant of all time. Sounds fancy. Oh, it is. So you better dress well. I will. I'll see you there then. I couldn't believe that Helena had wanted to go out with me. I mean, yes, it was weird, but all I could think about was how my hard work was paying off. Regardless of her being mean to me, she really did need time to come around and warm up to me. I was ecstatic and even bragged about it to Carl. He was happy that the two most important women in his life were finally getting along and that he no longer had to stand in the middle of both of us. The weekend couldn't have arrived faster. I waited all week for it. I even planned my outfit the day Helena called me. I made sure to look my very best while still maintaining some casualty because I didn't want to seem like a try-hard. I had worn a beautiful pantsuit that Carl assured me Helena would approve of. When I arrived there, Helena gave me a once-over and scoffed. I didn't know if she approved or disapproved, but I figured anything was better than her yelling at me for not dressing appropriately enough. Once inside the restaurant, we were quickly seated inside and we were assigned a waitress. The waitress that served us looked oddly familiar. As she walked to our table, I couldn't help but feel like I knew her, but I couldn't quite place my finger on how. Then I saw her name tag and it read Daisy. That's when it clicked in my brain. Daisy was my best friend growing up. We were neighbors when we were growing up. Our families were close because of us. There was nothing that I did that she didn't and vice versa. We were both only children, so we were like sisters to each other. It became common for people around us to assume where one was, the other was going to be there too. But when we were in 7th grade, her dad had gotten a better job opportunity in the neighboring state and they had to leave. I still remember just how much the both of us cried when we found out. The entire month before she left, We had sleepover after sleepover at my place. She practically lived at my place while her parents packed to leave. And in those days, accessing a telephone was not that easy, although we did keep in touch in whatever way we could. Eventually, though, our lives got different. I made new friends, and so did she. What little contact we had dwindled down to nothing, and that was it. I used to reminisce about us from time to time, but as the years passed, I sort of forgot about her. But then, there she was, working as a waitress in a high-end restaurant. When she approached our table, it seemed like she recognized me too. We gave her orders, and I wondered if it would be rude to get up and excuse myself to go talk to Daisy. After all, that was the first time Helena had been nice enough to actually invite me to some place. Before I could even bring it up, Daisy came to our table again to cross-check our orders. In the process of doing it, she spilled some water on me. She profusely apologized while dabbing away at my pants before leaving a note there. I looked at her in confusion, but she just bobbed her head subtly in the direction of the note. While she was still dabbing at my lap, I discreetly read the note, and it said, "Come to the washroom ASAP. It's urgent." That only made me more confused and concerned. I decided to go to the washroom as per her note. I excused myself and made my way to the washroom. I waited there for about 2 minutes before Daisy walked in. She looked through all the stalls to make sure that none of them were occupied, and then came back to me and hugged me really tight. I was surprised, but hugged her back too. "Hey, Daisy, it's lovely to see you again. What's been going on?" "I would love to catch up with you, Billy, but there's something I need to tell you." "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" "With me, yes. With you, it's not going to be. I couldn't just drag you away from your table, so I left you a note." "What do you mean by it's not going to be okay with me?" "Well, the other day I was on shift when the lady sitting in front of you came over with her friend." "She's my mother-in-law, and that was probably her best friend that she walked in with." "Holy crap. That's your mother-in-law?" "Yeah, why?" "Okay, so I'm pretty sure it's you that she was talking about, but I was just trying to be extra careful about any other woman she brought along with her to this restaurant." "What in the world are you talking about?" "Right. I overheard her talking about poisoning her daughter-in-law's food with something she's allergic to. I'm sure if she has another daughter-in-law, but I'm warning you, just in case, run." Wait. Are you sure it was her?" "Yeah. Hold on. I secretly recorded the entire conversation while I cleaned their table. I put my phone in my shirt's pocket and went about cleaning as slowly as I could." Daisy whipped out her phone and scrolled for a little while through her photos before finally finding the video she wanted to show me. And just like she had described, there was Helena and her friend Betty sitting and talking. They were talking about how I was a disrespectful daughter-in-law and how I didn't know how to take care of either myself or her son. Helena was even bragging about how she had been tormenting me for so long just to put me in my place. She called me pathetic for doing whatever I could to gain her approval, which really stung because she was my mother-in-law and my husband's mother. Of course I wanted her to like me. Anyway, she carried on talking about how she planned to test me by adding some finely crushed peanuts into my food while I wasn't looking, just to see if I would recognize it. She also thought that it would be funny to make a scene about my allergy because she thought I was just saying some bogus. Watching that video shook me to my core. First of all, I knew she was referring to me because she had only one son and one daughter, so it wasn't hard to guess that I was the daughter-in-law she was referring to. Secondly, I have a deathly allergic reaction to peanuts, so much so that I can't even have any form of cross-contamination, or I will go into anaphylactic shock. It was appalling to see Helena talk about it in such a casual manner, especially talking about triggering it, which could potentially kill me. I thanked Daisy for the heads up, and she assured me that she was just doing her best to protect another woman, but she was glad that she was able to help me. We exchanged phone numbers and I told her that I might have to use her name to get out, and she told me I was clear to do it. I gave her a generous tip and made my way back to our table. When I got to the table, Helena looked impatient and upset. "Where have you been? My goodness, you look like you peed your pants." "I know. I met the waitress while she was on her way back to her station and she apologized, so at least she was sweet about it." Ugh, these waitresses don't know a thing about customer service. No, it's okay, but I think I'll have to leave and go back home. My pants are way too wet and I feel really uncomfortable. Nonsense. Just sit down and we'll carry on. "I'm really sorry that I have to bail, but the AC is up pretty high and I'm feeling really cold. I don't want to get sick and I would much rather go back home." Wow, you're really going to leave the one time I've extended a hand to get to know you better? I know, and I feel really bad, but this was something completely out of my control. I'm going to have to leave right now, but you go ahead and enjoy your time here. I left after saying that. I drove back home immediately, but before I reached it, I stopped by a gas station and texted Daisy to send me the video of Helena talking about her plan. She replied almost instantly, and when I had the video saved, I drove back home. Carl was obviously surprised to see me there because he had seen how excited I was, and I ended up coming home way too early. I didn't actually say anything to him, although I did rush straight to the bathroom to take a hot shower. I wanted to get whatever happened off of me. I was scared that Helena may have put the crushed peanuts on my clothes or in my hair, just any way to harm me if her plan failed. I scrubbed myself down thrice, and when I was done, I threw my clothes into the wash. After which, I once again scrubbed my hands clean. Carl just stood in the corner and watched me clean myself like a maniac, but didn't say a word. He just waited until I was done so I could explain to him what had happened. "Do you want to talk about it now?" "Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just paranoid." "What on earth were you paranoid about? You were out to lunch with my mom." "Well, I happened to run into a childhood friend who works as a waitress there." "Oh, that's nice. Is that why you're paranoid, though?" "Kind of. She spilled some water on me and asked me to meet her in the washroom because she had something important to tell me." "That's odd. Turns out she wanted to warn me that your mother wanted to harm me." "What? Are you sure that it was my mom? And even if it was, are you sure that it was you?" "Well, I'm the only daughter-in-law she has, so I'm pretty sure it was me." "How did your friend know about this?" "Helena had gone there with her friend and they were discussing the plan. My friend happened to be their server and overheard the entire thing." "And you're going to take the word of a friend you used to have just like that?" "No, of course not. But she did manage to record the conversation and I have it with me here." I played the video for him and Carl's eyes got wide. He was just as appalled as I was. At that point, he realized just how bad his mother had always been treating me. All those times that I told him about her absurd behavior and he brushed it off came crashing into his mind. Not to mention, he had been there once when I got hospitalized after I had consumed something that had peanut traces in it. That experience alone was traumatizing for him, and to find out that his mother had planned to put me in a similar situation was jarring. He apologized to me a lot for his past behavior, and of course, I let it go. I knew where he had been coming from, after all. Who could ever imagine their own mother trying to actively harm their spouse? We talked about his mother's plan for a long while and concluded that it would be best if we never met her in person ever again. We didn't want to risk her trying to hurt me again. Of course, that night, she called Carl to complain about me being indecent for running away. "Carl, we need to talk about your wife." "Yeah, we do." "Oh, so you have something to say too?" "Absolutely." "I knew it. But let me go first. That wife of yours is beyond disrespectful. You know what she did today?" "She left early?" "Yes, exactly. I had taken time out of my busy schedule to try and actually spend some one-on-one time with her, and that's what she did. The audacity of her. I'm telling you, it's high time that you leave her. If she can't respect your mother, Is she really worth it? Why would she try to respect my mother when my mother tried to poison her? Excuse me? What? Can't act all high and mighty now? What are you talking about? I didn't try to poison her. Right. That's why I have a video of you discussing how you were going to mix crushed peanuts into her food with Aunt Betty. That was not real. We were only joking. Joking or not, that was a sick joke to make. I'm glad. Billy was informed about it and got herself out of the situation fast. Neither of us wants you to visit us ever again. We can chat and video call, but that's about it. If you show up to meet us anywhere, we will release the video and get a restraining order against you. Goodbye, Mom. Carl cut the call with that, and let me just tell you, it was really liberating to have him stand up for me. He was able to tell Helena all the things I wished to have told her from the start. Helena did try to call and text us again after that, but we felt like we deserved at least some space from her for a little while. We spent the next few months living blissfully. Carl still kept trying his best to make up for his ignorance, even though I assured him that I had already forgiven him for it. Helena, of course, did keep calling Carl, and every so often he would pick her calls up. Of course, she would say nothing but insults against me. She would tell him that he was being disrespectful towards his mother by listening to his wife's lies. Of course, he would never listen to what she said, and he would always make up some excuse to hang the phone up. Initially, we were skeptical about Helena listening to our fret, but for months she did only communicate via calls and text. Just when we were beginning to let our worries subside, Helena decided to come over. You see, Carl had gotten tired of hearing Helena insult me, and in the process he too, so he ignored her calls for around 2 weeks. She did not like that, and she decided that the best course of action would be to show up at our house. She rang our doorbell incessantly and kept yelling for us to open up. We tried to ignore her, but eventually the loud ringing of the doorbell started to give me a headache, so Carl opened the door to her. She shoved him aside and stomped into the house. I tried my best to stay as far away from her as possible because she really did look like she was really angry and ready to cause harm. I did not want to be caught up in that, but I was also curious to see why she had come over. Mom, what are you doing here? Didn't we? Don't you start with me, Carl. I'm your mother, and I have a right to know about what's going on in your life. Sure, but you've never actually asked me what's been going on in my life. All you've been giving me are your unsolicited opinions on my wife. They're not opinions, they're facts. Look, I'm sorry I ignored your calls, but you need to leave now. I'm not leaving until your witch of a wife comes here and apologizes for defaming me. Defaming? She didn't do anything like that. How can you stand up for her against your own mother? I didn't at first, but then I saw the proof and I couldn't side with you anymore. So get out, please. That proof is fabricated, like I'd ever tried to put crushed peanuts in her food. Like I said, I don't care that you were joking. It's still highly suspicious that you invited her out to lunch after years of her trying to get into your good books, right after you made that joke. She's just an insolent baby who constantly wants attention. I know in my gut that her allergy isn't real. I'm going to ask you to leave once again, or I will get the police involved. Helena refused to leave. She kept yelling that I was a family wrecker and that she'd make me pay for it in the worst possible way. I was crapping my pants with how scared I was. Thankfully, Carl called the police and they escorted her away. We also filed for a restraining order because we never wanted to be close to her again. Helena did not stop trying to tell the cops about me being evil either. It hurt to see her do that because I didn't even do a thing to make her feel that way. We did end up getting a lot of backlash from Carl's relatives for villainizing his mother, so he put them in a group chat and sent them the video of her planning to poison me and told them about my deathly allergy to peanuts. Everyone apologized after that and redirected their anger at Helena. Helena didn't take well to that either and blew up our phones for defaming her again. It's been a hectic few months dealing with all this, but we've decided to move on. We've blocked Helena everywhere, and we've decided that we want absolutely no contact with her going forward. I also got back in touch with Daisy and made sure to thank her profusely for what she did for me. We've since hung out a lot, and it's almost like we're back to what we used to be back in the day. Everything's looking good for now, and I feel like things are only going to get better from here on out. Hello guys, my name is Eve. I have a story for you today. Thankfully, I don't have a crazy mother-in-law in my life, but I do have a crazy stepsister, Allison. I don't want to go into much detail about the stepsister. She is a nasty woman who competed against me every chance she got. She faked illness on my birthdays and broke my things. She even stole all of my boyfriends and crushes when we got older. I knew that she was jealous of me because of whatever reason. She would never accept that though. Allison always maintained that she was the better woman, so it was natural for her to attract men. For some odd reason, my dad and stepmother always went along with it. They didn't want their perfect family to be disturbed by warring sisters. Well, that just made things worse. Allison never stopped harassing me. Trust me, guys, I did my best to control my temper around her. But shit hit the fan when I was 24 and this crazy freaking woman stole my then fiancé Chris by sleeping with him. It was our 5th anniversary when Allison casually walked into my house and said, "Wow, that's a nice anniversary celebration you have going, Eve. I wonder if the effort was worth it though. You know, Chris will be eventually leaving you for me anyway." What the hell are you talking about? Chris loves me, unlike all the men you slept with before. We are engaged, and he would never do that to me. God, you are so naive, Eve. I always told you that men would pick me over you. Chris just couldn't resist me either. We slept together the day you went out for your friend's bachelor's party. Don't make up lies, Allison. Chris would never do that. You are being delusional. Am I, Eve? Well, then, why don't you ask your dear fiancé about it, Chris? I know you remember the amazing night we spent in your bedroom. Want to tell your fiancé about it? I looked at Chris, expecting him to blow up at Allison for the false accusations. He had always defended me when Allison insulted me in the past. He was my rock and the love of my life. I was sure that he would never hurt me that way. Imagine my shock and sadness when Chris was looking at the floor, refusing to look me in the eye. I was shocked and desperate for answers. I said, "Chris, why are you quiet? Tell Allison what a lying witch she is. Tell her." What will he say, Eve? He knows the truth, and so do I. Now you know the truth as well. Chris and I slept together and loved it. It's only a matter of time before Chris breaks his engagement to you. Chris, is she speaking the truth? Tell me now. Don't leave me in the dark. Eve, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. Please. I didn't listen to the rest of his speech. I was numb with pain and betrayal when Chris accepted having an affair with my sister. I didn't care about the details or how long it went on. I didn't want to know. One night was enough. I immediately dumped Chris and threw my engagement ring at him. That night was one of the worst nights of my life. Allison laughed at me when she revealed the affair and called me a loser. Maybe I was a loser for falling in love with a cheater. I hated myself. and thought that I would never find happiness again. Chris did try to talk to me and begged for forgiveness. Allison texted me, giving me all the details of the affair that I never wanted to hear. She told me, "Chris would have left you eventually, Eve. He's just way out of your league. You should have seen this coming. A wealthy man like Chris needs a beautiful woman like me, not a sack of potatoes like you." What have I ever done to you, Allison? Why do you hate me so much? I don't like you, Eve. In fact, I do hate you. You think just because my mom treats you well, you are the queen of this world? Well, you are nothing but a freaking loser. You will always lose to me, Eve, and no one would protect you because no one actually cares about you. I finally grew a spine and cut her off for good. My dad and stepmother tried to intervene, but I told them off too. After ending things with Chris, I took a job transfer and moved to a different state. There, I started my life afresh and vowed to turn my life around. Also, I secretly prayed for a chance to get revenge on Allison for what she did. It was going to be a rare chance, but I kept hope. I stopped talking to a lot of people who still kept in touch with Allison and asked me to forgive her. I did have a good life in the new city, but kept everything secret from most of my family. I didn't even tell them when I met someone and got engaged to him after 3 years. My new life didn't have Allison's drama in it. I was finally happy and content with how life was going. Imagine my surprise when I got a mysterious phone call from an unknown number. I picked up the call, and it was Allison calling for me. I let her speak because I wanted to know what the hell she wanted from me. She said in a sickeningly sweet voice, "Hey Eve, how are you doing?" "We are not that close to making small talk, Allison. Tell me what you want." "You got me at that, Eve. I guess I can cast aside the small talk now. I have no interest in knowing how you are anyway, so I am getting married to Chris next month and you are invited." "Why would I want to come, Allison? And why would you even want me there if you don't care about me at all?" "Oh, you poor thing, Eve. I just wanted you there because of our close relationship with Chris. I met him through you, remember? Naturally, I want you there. I know that this news might be bad for you, but it is what it is. Don't be jealous, Eve. I understand that you will be upset. It is hard knowing that the man you loved is now marrying your stepsister." So, Allison was indeed inviting me to gloat and throw it in my face that she was marrying my ex-fiancé. I was surprised that Chris stayed with Allison. I guess I could see why. Allison couldn't let go of his wealth, and Chris stayed because cheaters make a great pair. Allison thought that gloating about her wedding to my ex-fiancé would make me sad and jealous. Well, I wasn't either of them. I have my reasons why, so I smirked at her and said, "Oh, that's okay, Allison. I don't mind you marrying my ex at all. In fact, I'm very happy that you two found each other. I must say that two cheaters would make a great pair. Thanks for taking him off my hands, Allison. I don't need him anyway. I'm marrying a better man." "Oh, please, Eve. You haven't dated since you broke up with Chris. I know, just like everyone else in your life, you are a loser, Eve. You will die alone while I ride off into the sunset with your precious ex-fiancé." "Well, like I said, I'm happy for you, Allison. Believe it or not, I am now engaged to a much better man who I will marry in the next few months. You didn't know because I was smart enough to not make my love life public again." "Is that so, Eve? Then why don't you bring him to my wedding and rehearsal dinner? I'm sure the family would love to meet this new fiancé of yours if he does exist. I'll give you a gracious +1 so that you can introduce him to us. Are you sure you want that, Allison? I mean, it's your rehearsal dinner and wedding, so you may not want my fiancé there. If I were you, I would think things through. You are the one asking to be humiliated, Eve. You think I would believe your animated story about being engaged? Well, no, so don't try to get out of this. Bring him. I too want to see what better man you are talking about. If you say so, then so be it. You need to tell everyone that you invited my new fiancé to your wedding events. I didn't want Allison to turn on me and say that I purposefully brought my fiancé to ruin her day. I knew that when she would see my fiancé, she would throw a fit. I didn't want to take the blame later. It was Allison who insisted that I bring my fiancé Seth to her rehearsal dinner. I am not even considering her wedding because I am sure we won't be attending that. Anyway, Allison was so confident about my love life being a lie that she did as I said. She told everyone that she was a good sister and invited my new fiancé so that everyone could meet him. Everyone seemed happy and excited to finally meet the man who stole my heart. On the day of the rehearsal dinner, Allison was prepared to make fun of me and my fiancé. She was convinced that there was no way I could find a better man than Chris. I get the sentiment. Chris is kind of rich and handsome. Allison was marrying him because she thought neither me nor her would ever get a better man than him. To each to one's own, I guess. Anyway, my fiancé already knew everything and was excited to meet my family, excluding Allison and Chris. He didn't care about them or their opinions. In fact, he downright hated Allison for different reasons. The reasons will be revealed later. We went to the rehearsal and arrived before the bride and groom. Both of them were fashionably late again. Meanwhile, Seth got the chance to meet and know all my family before the drama began. The real fun began when Allison and Chris arrived hand in hand at the venue. They were dressed to the nines, while Chris didn't exactly look particularly happy. He lit up when he saw me, but I kept a neutral face. Meanwhile, Allison, who looked happy and even smirked at me, actually turned as white as a ghost when she saw Seth. She immediately broke free from Chris and ran over to Seth. She said, "Seth, what are you doing here?" "You invited me to your rehearsal dinner, Allison." "Well, you didn't actually invite me knowingly, but you did." "What? I don't understand. How did I unknowingly invite you?" "I believe you told Eve to bring her fiancé to your rehearsal dinner and wedding, so..." "So what? What are you trying to say?" Allison knew Seth very well. That's why she didn't want to accept what Seth was going to say. She looked horrified and tried to stop Seth from actually spitting out her worst nightmare. That's when I decided to step in and say, "Seth is my new fiancé, Allison. I get it that you two know each other. Small world, right? Since you told me to invite my fiancé, I told him to come along." No, Seth can't be your fiancé. You are lying. You two are playing a game to intentionally hurt me. You are trying to ruin my day, Eve. Stop being so cruel." "I don't care about you enough to ruin your day, Allison. Like I said before, I found a better man, so there is nothing for me to be bitter about. But I don't know why you think you are acting this way." Allison started to suddenly cry and asked Seth if what I was saying was true. She was behaving insane, and everyone, including Chris, was confused by her reaction. But I wasn't surprised at all. I knew this was going to happen. Allison knew Seth very well. They went to the same college and he was her senior. Allison was madly in love with him and tried to get with him several times. She even went as far as to jinx 2 of his relationships to get him to date her. Seth hated her since then and didn't want anything to do with her. He only agreed to come that day because he and I both needed revenge against Allison. We were successful in getting what we wanted. Seth actually looked at Allison in a very indifferent way and said, "Yes, it's all true. I am engaged to my beautiful fiancée, Eve. She is the love of my life, and we will be getting married soon. You are not invited, though." No, you can't marry my sister, Seth. You knew I was in love with you. How can you marry my sister? You can't do this. Eve, how dare you do this to me? You knew everything and still betrayed me. You want to hurt me. Unlike you, my love life doesn't revolve around my stepsister, Allison. I had no idea who Seth was until a few months into dating, and just because you loved him doesn't mean I will have to drop him. Seth loves me and I love him too. How dare you talk about loving Seth in front of me? How can you hurt me like that? You never should have dated Seth. I always knew you were a cheap witch who wanted to ruin my happiness. You intentionally got with Seth because I am marrying your ex-fiancé. That's ironic. Since you decided to literally make my ex-fiancé cheat on me, now you are getting married to him. Meanwhile, you and Seth never dated and he hates you with a passion. I didn't even know your connection to him before we dated. I don't think you should be throwing out allegations. In fact, you are the one who ruined my happiness. Allison was now crying and screaming accusations at me. It was bizarre because she was throwing a tantrum over a man at her own rehearsal dinner. The people around were really surprised at what they were witnessing. Chris looked very uncomfortable and wasn't saying much. Since his friends and family were around, he was ashamed to let them witness such an embarrassing situation. Allison never cared about those things. It was clear to everyone that she was still in love with Seth. She clutched Seth's arm and was crying to him. Seth looked super annoyed and tried to get her off him. He said, "You are acting very inappropriately towards your stepsister's fiancé, Allison. Your soon-to-be husband is standing right here. You already stole Eve's fiancé before, but it won't work on me. You are only embarrassing yourself." Seth, you have to believe me. Eve is with you just to get back at me. She doesn't love you at all. She's doing this to hurt me and ruin my life. She doesn't love you like me. You have some nerve saying that you love your stepsister's fiancé more than her. That too, at your own wedding. This is very embarrassing, Allison. I don't have enough time in this world to find out your love interests and get them to date me. Don't freaking lie to me, Eve. You did this on purpose. And you brought Seth to ruin my wedding. You are jealous of me and want to hurt me in the worst way possible. Now, Allison, I didn't even care about you until you reached out to gloat about your wedding to my ex-fiancé who you stole from me. I am happy to know that you are marrying Chris. And you are the one who told me to bring my fiancé. The entire family is witness to that. Everyone in the family immediately agreed to my statement and even berated Allison for her reaction. Allison was so mad with fury and sadness that she didn't want to listen to reason. She was still crying and holding on to Seth for dear life. When Seth couldn't get her off him, Allison's bridesmaids dragged her away. They looked panicked because they could tell that Allison was risking her own marriage. Chris's family was already looking furious, while the bridesmaids were trying hard to make Allison realize what she was doing. But Allison kept screaming at me for ruining her life and spoiling her wedding. But that's when Chris spoke up. He said,
There is no need to blame Eve for destroying your life or trying to ruin your wedding. This wedding is off now. From your reaction, it is clear that you are not over Seth. I'm not surprised. I always knew that you were marrying me to make Eve jealous.
Chris, no, you can't do this to me. Our wedding is tomorrow. You can't cancel the wedding now. I'm telling you, this is all Eve's plan to ruin my day. Don't give in to her plan, Chris.
You are a delusional woman, Allison. Stop blaming Eve for everything bad in your life when it's the total opposite. I regret the day I ever slept with you. That decision ruined my life too. I would have been marrying Eve if you hadn't tricked me into sleeping with you. And I hate myself for complying. I never wanted this marriage in the first place, nor the relationship. You are the one who kept guilting me to stay with you. Today, you have given me enough, and more reason to leave you. We're done, Allison.
What are you saying, Chris? You can't leave me now. No, you can't do that to me. We will be getting married tomorrow. You won't leave me because of my stepsister.
No, I'm leaving you because of your behavior. I won't let you dangle our nasty affair in my face to get your way. I think I have suffered enough these years and lost the love of my life, Eve. That's enough penance for me. I was kind of surprised to hear that from Chris. It was true that he used to occasionally reach out to apologize to me and try to rekindle our hopeless relationship, but I never paid him attention and eventually blocked him. So hearing him call me the love of his life was surprising but also satisfying. It destroyed Allison and made her realize that no one truly loved her. All the men in my life who she stole abandoned and left her eventually. Now I was engaged to the love of her life, and her own fiancé was calling off the wedding. She realized that and started to totally lose her mind. Allison was a crying mess and didn't know what to say. She kept alternating between begging Chris not to leave her and begging Seth not to marry me. It was pathetic and everyone was giving her nasty looks. Also, her own friends and Chris's family didn't know about the cheating. When they found out, they had nothing but horrible things to say about Allison. Even Chris had to face some backlash for what happened in the past. He took it all without protest and apologized to me again. Eventually, me and Seth left, along with the rest of the guests. Allison did try to hold Seth, Chris, and me down, but failed when people intervened and got us out. Chris kept his word and refused to marry Allison. The wedding was called off and the relationship ended as well. He did call me and Seth for a meeting for a sense of closure. We both went because we really wanted to put this past us now. Chris apologized to me over and over again and said that he hoped I was happy in my new relationship. When I said yes, the answer made him sad. He congratulated Seth and then left without saying much else. I didn't forgive him, but I did like that he realized his mistakes. The story of Allison took a huge turn. She quickly started to become ostracized when all her friends, colleagues, and family got to know the complete story. People who berated me for not staying in touch with Allison were now supporting me after knowing the truth. In one evening, she lost 90% of the people she knew. She was promptly kicked out of Chris's family's home and left on the streets. Since she recently left work and thought of being a stay-at-home wife, she didn't have a job lined up. Her old job refused to give her job back because of the drama. She had to be unemployed and living out of her car for days. Since Chris's family was influential in the area, their word made many businesses refuse to give her work, so she had to downgrade and work in a place that gave way less money. She is living with roommates now and had to change her lifestyle completely. Seth and I got married just 2 months after this fiasco. We didn't want a big wedding, even though Seth and I are pretty well off. We had a small wedding with all our friends and family present. We didn't invite Allison because she's neither of those. She did try to contact us. She cursed and threatened me while convincing Seth to leave me. We threatened to get a cease and desist order if she continued to harass us. That shut her off real quick. We have since moved on and are enjoying our life just fine. So, I got rid of my horrible stepsister, but not before giving her the biggest lesson of her life.
Hello guys, my name's June, and in this story you will see how I screwed over my ex-husband David and ex-mother-in-law Jessica, who tried to play me dirty. I'm by no means a clever woman with a lot of tricks up my sleeve, so there was no setup or any plan of revenge. What happened to me was pure luck, with a good dose of stupidity on Jessica's end. So let me start from the beginning. When I dated and married my now ex-husband David, I thought that he was simply a very ambitious man. He did play the part of a loving boyfriend and fiancé very well, but also dedicated a good chunk of his day to work. When we were in a relationship, I was never left wanting for anything. I got it all from him: love, affection, and care. He was at that time building his business and taking it to the pinnacle of success. I was super proud of his work, but never ran after his money. Still, his mother Jessica was always convinced that I was after his money. She said, "Don't think you have me fooled, June. I know for a fact that you are after David's money." "You are mistaken, Jessica. When I and David first started dating, he didn't even have this much money. I have always supported him and never asked him for anything." "Oh, please. I'm sure you have asked for plenty of things. My son doesn't give you any because I have taught him never to spend money on stupid things like gifts and girlfriends. His drive to become wealthy was born because I taught him well." "No, you didn't teach him well. Sure, he's a good man and a loving partner to me, but he is very money driven and values it a lot. I know for a fact that you always drilled into his head that money and being wealthy is everything." It was true. David was obsessed with money. Building his business wasn't a way to follow his passion. He did it because he always ran after money. Jessica had boasted to me several times that I wouldn't get a cent out of him, that he would always choose money over a relationship. I didn't believe her until I married him. Guys, after I married David, he did a computer 180. He stopped being a good husband and focused all his energy on work. No more affection, no more caring words. All he did was eat, sleep, and work. I stayed on because I just thought that he was stressed and had some personal goals with the company. But no, after 2 years, when things didn't change, I had to sit down and have a talk with him. I said, "Our marriage cannot go on like this, David. You have stopped showing me affection completely. You don't even take me out on dates anymore. I have been feeling neglected for a while." "Why do I have to take you out on dates? Those are a waste of money. I don't work hard for you to be a princess, June. We are married now, so there is no need for those silly things." "You don't have to spend money on me, David. Maybe if you just spend some time with me, the time off work, and..." "If I take time off work, do you think my bank will magically get filled with money? Don't be ridiculous, Jessica." I felt insulted. I never asked him for material things. He never gave me gifts or even took me out on dates anymore. He was so obsessed with working and money that he forgot everything. At times like those, I hated Jessica for making him this way. She was still egging him on about making more money and spending less time with me. It was exhausting, having to be alone with zero affection from my partner. So I finally made the decision and divorced him. David fought, but only because he didn't want to give me his savings and alimony.
I did find work after marriage, but David's income was too high, so the court awarded me alimony. David was not happy, and so wasn't his mother. She once called me during the divorce and said, "You witch, I always knew that you were after my son's money. My poor son had to marry such a gold digger like you. Now he is suffering. You better know what is right for you and leave his money alone." First of all, Jessica, let me tell you again that I am not after his money. His lack of love and affection towards me made me divorce him. No thanks to you. David has turned into a stone who doesn't care about anything other than dollars and cents. That is the only thing he should care about. He shouldn't be bothering himself with gold diggers like you. I hope the court sees you for what you are and doesn't give you anything. Until then, I will do my best to stay with my son and guide him like I always have. I was a little amused. David was not much in contact with her. After I left the house to live on my own, David realized that he could guard his money better if he didn't have to look after another person. He started cutting off people from his life so that they couldn't ever ask for his money. I honestly believe that he had some mental issues that he needed to get checked. He was acting very bizarre. He only had his mother in his life before the incident, which I will tell you soon. It happened just a few weeks after we got divorced. One fine morning when I was minding my own business and getting ready for work, I got an unexpected visitor at my house. I opened the door to see my ex-mother-in-law waiting for me on the patio. Honestly, I was surprised to see her. She doesn't live in our city, so she must have driven to see me at my house. She was absent for most of our divorce proceedings, but didn't fail to egg on my ex-husband. She was quite furious when the court gave me a good chunk of David's money and alimony, so I had no idea why she would even try to interact with me again. Jessica pushed her way past me and said that we needed to talk. I sat her down and went to the kitchen to make some coffee. When I was coming back, I saw her go through my bag on the couch. She didn't see me, and I couldn't find out what she was trying to do before she saw me coming. When I sat down, I said, "So, what brings you here, Jessica? I don't see why you would ever need me or want my company, so it has to be something serious." "You are funny, June. I have no idea who in this world would ever want your company. And you are a useless woman, so I can't get anything out of your help." "Okay, then pray tell me why you are here. I only invited you in because I thought it was something important or an emergency." "Well, this is important. I have come to tell you what a waste of space you are. You ruined my son's life. And I hardly did anything, June. He was an absent partner, so I divorced him. The court did the rest. I didn't ruin him like you said." "Yeah, you did. I always knew you were after his money. Your divorce proved it to me. Do you think I don't know how much the court awarded you in the divorce? You bled my son dry. If you think I will let you get away with it, you are wrong. I will ruin you. Consider this a warning." Jessica went on and on, calling me names and giving me various kinds of threats. I was seriously baffled by what was happening. I never thought she would drive for hours just to come and yell at me. It was amusing and annoying as well. I was just wasting my time with her and nothing was making sense. After some heavy threatening and yelling, Jessica left. I sat on my couch, stunned at what happened. It actually ate at me the entire day. But the next morning when I was getting ready for work, I suddenly remembered that Jessica had been going through my handbag. I had no idea why she did that. I quickly checked my bag to see if anything was amiss. Everything was in place except for my credit card. At first, I wanted to be sure that I hadn't misplaced it somewhere. I searched everywhere and couldn't find it. That's when I suspected that Jessica might have taken it. Now, I didn't have cameras in my house, so there was no way of proving this to anyone. So I waited for a chance to see if Jessica would be stupid enough to admit it or if I could trap her. I didn't have to wait too long to trap Jessica. About 2 weeks later, David called me out of the blue. I had no idea why he was calling me because he wanted nothing to do with me anymore. Curious, I picked up the call only to be confronted by a very angry-sounding David. He said, "June, I got a notification that you have spent $15,000 on my credit card. This is insane, June. I am not paying for that. What is wrong with you?" Wait, what? But I didn't even use the card, David. I stopped using it a long time ago. I am not racking up more debt for you, David. You are lying, June. I can clearly see several purchases, including hotels and activities at a resort. Are you out there partying, thinking that I will take care of your bills? Don't be ridiculous, David. I am not spending your money. I don't even know what resort you're talking about. I am at home, just getting ready for work. You can come and check. But I can clearly see purchases made from your supplementary card. It says that you were making transactions in Hawaii. Like I said, David, I am not in Hawaii. I am at home. And I haven't seen my card for a while. Wait, I think I know who might be making all these transactions. Give me a few minutes. I will find out. All right then, I'll be waiting. After David hung up, I had a fair idea where my credit card might be. I distinctly remember only Jessica visiting my place after the divorce was finalized. She came to my house to shout at me for ruining her son's life and how I deserved to be alone and miserable for the rest of my life. Now I see that she wasn't there just to yell at me after all. She was probably here to steal my credit card and land me in debt. She had been salty about me getting a lot of money in the divorce settlement, so it kind of made sense she would do something to make it even. To confirm my theory, I called my ex-mother-in-law and decided to record the conversation. I knew it would be important. When Jessica picked up the call, I knew I had hit the jackpot. She said, Well, look who's calling. What's the matter, June? Is something missing from your bank account? Ah, so I was right. I see. You took my credit card, didn't you, Jessica? It was about time you noticed your card missing. I must say, it's a very nice card with a high spending limit. It is doing wonders for my vacation. What vacation, Jessica? You need to be a little more specific than that. I'm talking about my vacation to Hawaii. I took a grand tour with my friends. We are honestly having a blast. 5-star services and all. Let me be straight here, Jessica. Did you take my card and just spend $15,000 on it? I didn't just spend it, June. I took it last week. Went on a shopping spree, booked a vacation, and am still making some amazing purchases. Are you kidding me right now? You spent $15,000 on someone else's card? Have you no shame? Why would I, Jessica? You were the one who took my son to the cleaners and got a chunk of his money. If you think I would let you get away with that, you are wrong. So I decided to take your card and make it even. You know, spend some of your money so that the scales are even. Jessica had a hint of laughter in her tone when she revealed her grand plan to me. Her confession was all I needed to ruin her life. She had ruined her son's life already. I didn't need to help her with that. Jessica didn't know how disastrous her actions would prove to be, not just to herself, but also to her son. I let her have a moment before laughing aloud myself. She seemed surprised by my laughter. She said in a nasty voice, "What are you laughing about, June? If you think that you can call me to stop using your card, you are wrong. I'm hundreds of miles away, and you can't make me give you back my card. I will make some more purchases and only return the card when I am satisfied with myself. Oh my God, you poor thing, Jessica. I don't need my card back. You can keep it and use it as you please. Oh, I don't mind at all. You don't mind me spending all your money? You need to get your head out of your butt, Jessica. I don't know why you think you are spending my money. What do you mean? I'm using your card for my purchases. That's how you know that I've been using it. Yes, you were using my card for your purchases, but that's not why I knew what you were doing. Your son got his bank statements today and he informed me about it. What nonsense. My son hates you now and doesn't want to talk to you. Plus, why would he get notifications of your credit card transactions? You must have short-term memory loss or something, Jessica. Did you forget that the court has ordered David to pay off my credit card bills? The card you took is connected to his bank account. It was a supplementary card I had before our marriage. He forgot to get it back. Thanks for taking it off my hands. Now, there was a stunned silence in Jessica's end. She was trying to figure out if I was lying or if she had really messed up that badly. You see, she must have forgotten that the court had ordered him to pay my credit card bills. It wasn't my personal account, but a supplementary card linked to David's bank account. David had let me keep it, but he was the only one who used it to buy stuff for business. When I presented the proof to the judge, she instructed David to make those payments even though the card was in my name. Jessica had either forgotten that or simply thought that I had given the card back. Truth is, I was supposed to give David the card back once he returned from an emergency business trip. That was before Jessica swooped in and stole it. When Jessica realized the whole deal, she started to sound panicked when she said, No, that can't be possible. You were saying that my son has to pay off these bills? Yes, Jessica, your son will be the one paying off the bills, so spend as you may. It doesn't affect me in any way. No, this can't be happening. You are lying. You are lying. Jessica's panicked denial was the last thing I heard before she hung up on me. I guess she couldn't handle me speaking the truth. I did my part and confronted her. I had the recorded conversation to nuke her life for good, and I was first going to nuke her relationship with her son. I was curious how David would react. He did love his mom, but I knew he loved his money more than anyone else. So after Jessica hung up on me, I proceeded to execute part 2 of my revenge plan. I called David and said, So, I know someone took my card and is making those purchases without my authorization. I'm thinking about filing a police report, or you can do it with me. What? Someone took your card? Do you know who it is? I will definitely go after that person. The $15,000 is no joke to me, June. You need to tell me what you know. Brace yourself for this, David. It was Jessica, your mother, who stole the card from me. I guess she did it last week when she came to my house to yell at me. Something about ruining your life and that. I guess she was really there to steal my card. What nonsense are you spewing, June? Just because my mom is also on a vacation to Hawaii doesn't mean she's doing this. You can't just accuse my mom like that. I am not accusing your mom without proof, David. I have her own confession to the crime. I called her and confronted her. She told me everything. No, I don't believe you. My mom would never do that to me. She wouldn't want me to lose money. She thought that she was spending the money that I got in the divorce from you. She even said something about evening the scales. If you don't believe me, I can send you the proof. It will make things crystal clear. Yes, send me what you have. I need to get to the end of this nonsense. I sent David the call recording after hanging up. It took him some time to call me back. He was probably too shocked and furious to see what his dear mother had done. He called me back, and I said, "So, is this proof enough for you, David?" Like I said, I wasn't the one who racked up the debt from the credit card. It was your damn mother. I can't believe how stupid she is. This is why I kept her far, far away from my money. God, I don't know what has gotten into her, but I am not paying that off. I will sue Mom.